Uncle Story Time, The Miner's House. As mentioned in my other story, Evil in the Storeroom, there has been other encounters and experiences on the same property. My grandparents bought this old miner's house when they were in their 20s and newly married. My granddad worked in the mines. They bought this house for very cheap. I stayed in this bedroom, which was my favorite bedroom. My bed was next to a big window that went across the wall, and I had this tube computer that just collected dust because the electricity was never reliable. It had high ceilings with beams running through the house. Growing up, you get used to sounds that appear in an old house, but one sound I never ever forget. At a specific time, it would have been around 10:30 a.m. every single day on the dot. There is a huge thud. The ground vibrates as if something big has fallen over, and then there's a big cracking sound. I asked my grandmama and my granddad about it all the time, and they brushed it off as, oh, you know, it's an old house, there's always noises that comes with it. I was about 10, and I asked my dad one afternoon while we were working in the vegetable garden, and he bluntly told me that someone died in my room. I rushed into the house and demanded my grandmama to tell me who it is and what is it. The backstory of the house, the reason why it sold for so cheap, is because before my grandparents bought the house, there was a newly married couple who was very happy. She was a stay-at-home wife, and he worked in the mines. Some months later, the husband was fired from his job, and so was many other men. He took it badly, the breadwinner of the family, and he couldn't take care of his wife, so he spiraled down into depression. His wife did everything she could to make sure they had food on the table. I think at one point she was a maid or a servant to a well-off family in town, so she'd leave her husband at home with lunch prepped for him. This one day, the wife leaves to go to work, and the husband hangs himself in the room, my bedroom. The thud that I hear is the chair that he kicked off from, and the crack noise is his neck breaking. The wife returns home to find her husband dead, and she goes crazy. The neighbors rush to her aid, and unfortunately, she was shipped away to a mental asylum where she died of a broken heart. When my grandmama told me the story, I broke down into tears and felt very sorry for the miner and his wife. Still to this day at 10:30 a.m., there's a huge thud and a crack followed soon after. Story 2: Evil in the Storeroom. I lived with my grandparents for a period of time when I was younger, as my parents often moved around due to my father's work was irregular. My grandparents' house was an old mining house and had a separate garage further away from the house. Behind the garage was this 4x4 storeroom that used to store chopped wood logs and canned goods. One side was for chopped wood logs, and the other side was shelves of canned goods. I loved canned goods. The electricity back then was unreliable, and I had to often do my homework or read books next to candlelight. The house would be warmed up by the fireplace that we used every single winter. It was bliss. Anyways, I was 7 years old, almost 8 years old. It was peak autumn, and my granddad asked me to get the biggest log of wood from the storeroom, and he sent me along with a torch. I remember opening the door and shining the torch in the corner for some reason. I heard a noise, I think. In this corner there was this black pool of something growing bigger and bigger, and then two black arms pulled itself out of the pool, crawled up onto the walls, and rushed at me. I dropped my torch with a fright, and in the darkness, I could feel immense anger and evil radiating off this thing. I was taking a while, so my granddad came after me, and he saw me standing there frozen, scolded me for taking a while. He brought me back to the house, redid the fireplace, and I was very, very upset. So I told my grandmama about it, and my grandmama is a very religious person, and she believed me straight away. She got out her Bible and her rosary necklace and prayed for hours, it felt like. I never went near the storeroom again, and when someone asked me, I refused to do so. The next time I had to stay with my grandparents, I was told that for some reason, the cats would give birth to kittens in the storeroom. The kittens would die the next day. My granddad is an avid cat lover, and many times he would move the kittens into the house, and they've still died. My granddad saw this thing a couple of times, either in the corner or on the ceiling. It gave him a heck of a fright, so he called the local priest, and they did some prayer rituals and stuff. And the priest told my grandparents that they better burn the storeroom down, which they did straight away. However, the storeroom is not there anymore, but every now and then, they see this black figure just standing there. It doesn't ever move. It just stays there. My grandmama thinks it's a portal, but neither of them will go near it. The grass around the area doesn't grow there. I now live in Australia, but I check in with my grandparents as often as I can. They're so ancient, they still use a fax machine to talk to us. I always ask about the black evil figure, and they say they still see it. It's something that no one should ever experience, and neither should a 7-year-old. It's no fun.